I've got Sirius XM radio in my car, and I realize it's a pretty neat thing to have. I mean, when I was growing up, you just had a little radio in the car. Nobody had cassette players or CD players or 8-track players. I've been through all of those. I had Sirius XM radio, and I was listening to the Beatles channel. Now, if you've seen some of my videos in the past, you know that I'm fascinated by the music of the Beatles. And so the DJ, I don't know if you call it a DJ, they're not really spinning discs, are they? The Scream J, whatever you call this person, was talking about the first Beatles song that they ever heard. It's like, what was the first Beatles song? Well, she couldn't tell. She didn't know. It was like her whole life. The Beatles were just kind of there. They just kind of came into existence. And she remembers listening to their music. Her parents, of course, were listening to the music. I'm imagining that this young lady was a young lady. And so her parents are probably younger than me. But I remember the first Beatles song of which I became aware. And I always remember it was back in the 60s, back in the late 60s. And for some reason, one of my cousins had the Blue album. You remember the Red and the Blue album that they put out with all the Beatles' big songs? And one of the songs on there, the first song that I remember listening to was I Am the Walrus. And I thought, what a strange name for a song. I mean, I grew up playing songs like I Love You for Sentimental Reasons and Over the Rainbow and something like that. But I Am the Walrus. He must have been reading Alice in Wonderland or something, or it was Lewis Carroll, The Walrus and the Carpenter. The first thing that I noticed about the song was not necessarily the music, but it was the lyrics. I am he, as you are me, and we are all together. What in the world was that? You know, Semolina Pilchard climbing up the Eiffel Tower, Elementary Penguin singing Hare Krishna. Man, you should have seen them kicking Edgar Allan Poe. What in the world? These lyrics didn't make any sense. I mean, I was used to songs like Wise Men Say Only Fools Rush In, but I can't help falling in love with you. I am he as you are he. What in the world was this? So that was my first exposure to the Beatles that I can remember. And then later on, as this was actually before I started studying music seriously. So I was maybe 10, 11 years old at the time. So this was probably about 1968, 67, 68. And so this was after the song I Am the Walrus came out. And then I started studying the music, and I'm listening to it, and it's like, I am he, as you are me, and we are all together. It was a strange chord progression, too. I was used to songs sounding almost classical in the way they were created. You could tell that the songwriters had some classical training. They'd studied music theory, a little bit of harmony. Even some of the songwriters had studied with classically trained composers. And so their songs reflected that. But this song sounded primitive, but it sounded strangely, I don't know how to describe it. It was like, wow, this is really interesting. It's all major chords. And in fact, one writer described it as an M.C. Escher chord progression, a series of major chords with no real traditional chord sequence resolution. So I began to think about that. So that's my story of the first Beatles song of which I became aware. And then, of course, I began to listen to pretty much everything that they recorded. And now I have pretty much a working knowledge of every Beatles song. And another thing that I thought was interesting, and I just happened to see a comment somebody made online about the Beatles. And this person was very confident in stating that the Beatles were just frontmen. They just were the singers, and they were taught by the higher ups what to sing. The songs were not written by Paul McCartney, John Lennon, and George Harrison, and occasionally Ringo Starr. All those songs were written by professional songwriters who worked in the shadows and were uncredited, and the Beatles were just the front men. Well, I had to ask ChatGTP about this because I thought that was a wild comment. So I asked, and I don't use ChatGTP a lot. I'm not really an AI kind of guy, but I thought, what would ChatGTP have to say about this? So I wrote, do some people believe that the Beatles did not write their own songs? And then I thought, I'll add on to that. And do some people believe that there was some kind of conspiracy concerning the whole hippie movement of the 1960s? Now, I remember the hippie movement. I was there. Now, I was too young to be an actual hippie, but a lot of people that I knew who were not that much older than me were part of that movement. So ChatGTP gave me the answer that yes, there are people who believe both of these things. They believe that the Beatles were just frontmen and that professional songwriters wrote all their songs and that the whole hippie movement was a creation of some kind of underground conspiracy. So yes, there are people who believe both of these things. They tend to live on the fringes, but the ideas have been around for decades. About the Beatles not writing their own songs, a small group of skeptics has claimed that the Beatles were essentially frontmen and that professional songwriters or shadowy studios did the real work. These ideas usually fall apart very quickly when you look at the evidence. And so ChatGTP gives me the evidence. We have early demos and home recordings showing songs in progress. Well, that's true. You can listen to the anthology series and hear a lot of that. Studio outtakes where you can hear songs being built line by line. You watch the Let It Be movie, the long 6-hour version perhaps, and you can see them literally, songs just writing them right there on the spot. Handwritten lyrics, notebooks and correspondence, testimony from producers, engineers, and fellow musicians. And the very clear stylistic fingerprints of Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, and even Ringo Starr. And these stylistic fingerprints evolved over time. And another evidence is the growth in their songwriting. They wrote simple, early pop tunes, and then later on these harmonically adventurous and emotionally complex later songs. And it actually supports the idea that they were learning, absorbing influences, and stretching themselves. And that's exactly what musicians do when they are deeply engaged with their craft. And about the hippie movement conspiracy, yep, some people argue that the counterculture of the 1960s, and maybe many of you watching this video were there at the time, they believe that the counterculture of the 1960s was not organic, but that it was manipulated or engineered by governments, intelligence agencies, or social planners to control young people, weaken traditional values, or redirect political energy. The reality is more nuanced. Governments did experiment with psychological research during the Cold War era, and media influence is always real, but the explosion of the hippie movement had many very human roots. Post-war prosperity and a large youth population, the trauma of Vietnam, the civil rights movement, a hunger for personal freedom, spiritual exploration, and artistic expression, new access to education, travel, and global music. So artists like the Beatles didn't create these forces. They responded to them and helped give them a voice. So many of you who love music know that music is often written in response to what is going on around the writer of the song. And so there were a lot of songwriters in the 60s, This would be an interesting area to explore. They wrote songs in response to what was happening, the war in Vietnam, the civil rights movement, poverty, population, pollution. All these things showed up in popular music. And the Beatles, of course, in their later works especially, were a part of that. All you have to do is listen to John Lennon's Beatles song, Revolution. The fast version, by the way. I'm not really fond of the slow version on the White Album. It's okay, but the single version. These ideas persist. Conspiracy theories often grow around things that feel too powerful, too influential, too beautiful to have come from ordinary human effort. And so it can be hard for some people to accept that these 4 young men from Liverpool with curiosity, talent, discipline, and opportunity could change music and culture so profoundly. Ironically, that disbelief underestimates the very thing music teaches us. What's possible when people listen deeply, keep learning, and follow their creative instincts. So it's interesting how ChatGTP kind of sums it up for us there. Music can have a profound influence, and the artists who create the songs, the performers who bring those songs to life, they can have a great effect on the people who listen to those songs. And it's important even for those of you who are just learning to play the piano, and that's basically what we're doing here at Home with Music. You want to listen deeply. You want to keep learning. And you want to follow your creative instincts. Anyway, I just thought it would be fun to share a Beatles and hippie-related story today. And I just want to thank you for listening and watching. And by the way, if you want to support my work here at Home with Music, you can buy me a coffee. It's a great way to support the channel, and it helps me to continue creating videos. Thank you once again for watching, and I'm going to have a sip of coffee, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one.